Oh, wait, I thought you were just like a character. Oh, okay, oh, that's right. You have NFTs? Like, how do you implement it? I just did an assignment on NFTs, but I still don't fully understand. I was like writing about that.
We are at Seoul Community Radio today. Sally, who is a really beloved DJ in the community. She's leaving, so she's hosting a kind of going away last level party, and we're all here DJing and just enjoying before she goes. So I'm from New York City, I'm from Harlem specifically. I came to Seoul for the first time in 2014 as a student. I loved it so much. I was like, oh, I have to come back as a teacher. Came back, I was teaching for a few years, teaching English, and during that time was actually when I started to become curious about DJing. I found that the community in general, especially here in Itaewon, especially Seoul Community Radio, other like amazing establishments in this area, the DJs, the owners, people who frequent those places, like everyone is truly just here for the music, to make friends, to get to know people. And I feel like that kind of made the transition into this community a lot easier, especially as someone who is at times like a little nervous, a little introverted. I have some doubts at times about, you know, the community and the scene, but I feel like every time I return to a place like SER or like Cake Shop, I remember how wonderful this community is, how welcoming it is, and people just want to get to know each other. And I think that sense of just wanting to connect is the basis for this kind of community.
How I got into DJing here, there wasn't really a drum and bass scene, or there was, but I didn't really like it very much, and it wasn't like the stuff that I'd hear back home. And so I used to play at home and have parties at my house, and then I'd play in my friend's bar. And then one day, like, it just kind of, I don't know, it just snowballed from there, and then I started playing a bit out, and more drum and bass heads started popping up, and then we've just kind of made a little community. And the kimchi guys, they've been going hard as well. You can meet them.
오케이, 고. 저는 드릴펀치입니다. 저는 언타이틀드라고 하고요. 우리는 김치 팩토리 호미스라고 하는 서울에서 그 UK 댄스 뮤직을 주로 플레이하고 있는 그런 DJ 컬렉티브예요. 파티도 정기적으로 런칭을 하고 있고, 네, 그런 팀입니다.
So I play drum and bass and jungle, and sometimes I play reggae on Sundays, but mostly drum and bass.
I play kind of everything, mostly trap, reggaeton, Afrobeats, piano, house.
These
days, I'm a house girly.
And a junglist as well.
And a junglist.
Yeah.
I do a lot of baile funk, so I'm very into baile funk. But my roots is trap. My roots is trap.
저는 전북 전라북도 익산이라는 작은 동네에서 태어나고 자라고 있어요. 저는 서울에서 자랐어요. 그래서 사실은 그 김치 팩토리 호미스 형들은 다 전라북도라는 익산이라는 동네에서 같이 나고 자랐지만 그 사람들을 만나기 시작한 거는 after 20살 넘어서 이제 디제잉 하기 시작하면서 제가 나고 자란 동네는 이런 어떠한 플랫폼 인프라가 없어요. 이런 음악들을 즐기고 또 내가 음악을 어떠한 것들을 보여주고 그런 게 전혀 없었기 때문에 자연스럽게 동네에서 친구들을 만나고 음악을 이렇게 즐기고 하는 데 있어서 자연스럽게 서울로 올 수밖에 없었어요.
The Korean experience is also something that is so deeply ingrained in terms of the history, language, patriotism, nationalism, And that's an experience I won't understand, just as how like a Korean person wouldn't understand my experience as a Black American woman. But I also think that, you know, living here, it's nice to be able to share and learn from each other. So I wouldn't say I'm Korean. I don't think I'll ever identify as Korean. I don't feel very Korean. I identify with living in Seoul, but I don't identify as Korean. Yeah. My identity doesn't really affect who I decide to hang around, which is the nice thing, right? I think in New York, sometimes it does play a role because, you know, we're so ingrained in our own communities and we have preconceptions about other communities, and so maybe you'll tend to segregate yourself a little bit, or maybe the other people segregate you, not by choice. But here, I feel like it's kind of the opposite, especially I'll say in Itaewon, I feel like my identity has never influenced like who I decide to talk to, who I decide to make friends with. It's kind of like you just talk to people, you give people the benefit of the doubt, you get to know them first before you make a judgment. Whereas when I'm back home, it's like, it's not judgment. It's like, oh, you seem weird based on what I already know about being in New York and like you. And I think I appreciate the fact that here I am a little bit more open because you never know who you're gonna meet. And I think that's something I'll take back with me to New York.
우리는 이제 UK 댄스 뮤직을 틀다 보니까 보통 이제 제일 많이 참고하게 되는 플랫폼은 키퍼시라는 이제 플랫폼을 많이, 유튜브에 있는 키퍼시라는 채널을 많이 찾아보거든요. 약간 UK 버전의 보일러룸인데 조금 더 러우한 느낌이 더 커요.
저는 영향을 받는 그런 공간과 그런 매체들은 일단 다 서울에 있는 그런 걸 다 받는 것 같아요. 저는 오랜 시간 동안 케이크샵이라는 클럽을 엄청 많이 다녔는데 그냥 거기에 계속 가면 뭐 2018년도에는 이런 음악이 제일 세련되고 뭐 19년도에는 이런 음악이 제일 세련되고 그런 것들을 다 들을 수가 있었어요. 그리고 뭐 전 세계적으로 좀
하입되는,
전 세계적으로 뭐 어떠한 하입을 받는 그런 DJ들도 꼭 와서 내한 공연하고 뭐 디제잉하고 하는 공간이 케이크샵이었기 때문에 저는 항상 거기 가서 많은 걸 듣고 배우고 그랬고요. 서울 커뮤니티 라디오도 수많은 DJ들이 자기 것들을 보여주고 그런 거를 너무 잘 확인할 수 있어요. 아카이빙이 잘 돼 있어서 간편하게 클릭해서 항상 볼 수 있기 때문에 이제 두 곳에서 제일 많이 영향을 받고 듣고 그랬고, 이제 뭐 다른 어떠한 뭐 린스 FM이나 키퍼시나 NTS 라디오 그리고 보일러룸도 물론이고, 그리고 그 요새 미국에 그 또 있는데 그 뭐였더라 이름이? 희수랑 맨날 보는 거.
데프TV?
데프TV. 이 정도. 그래서 많은 그런 플랫폼을 많이 보려고 해요. 최대한 많이.
저도 마찬가지로 케이크샵 SCR 영향 많이 받았고 이 말을 빠뜨린 것 같아서 코리안 DJ들도 코리안 DJ들만 스타일이 있지만 여기에서 주로 활동하고 있는 넌 코리안 DJ들도 그들만의 스타일이 있고 거기에 대해서 되게 많이 그 영향을 받고 있어요. 그 특히 이제 뭐 지금 이제 주로 많이 가장 활동하고 있는 뭐 그 플래닛 터보라고 우리랑 같이 이제 자주 작업을 하고 있는 그 UK 기반의 댄스 뮤직을 트는 친구들도 바이닐로 정글을 튼다든지 되게 좀 색다른 시도를 많이 하고 있고, 뭐 당장에 여기 지금 계속 디제잉을 하고 있는 언버리 사운드 친구들도 되게 새로운 튠들을 항상 매 셋마다 가져와요. 뭐 카럴, 리, 뭐 아놀드, 어스틴 뭐 할 것 없이. 그래서 그 친구들이 있어서 더 씬이 되게 다양해지는 것 같아요. 좀 더 다이버스해지고 그만의 그 컬러를 더 확보할 수 있는 것 같고, 아까 인터뷰에서도 얘기했던 대로 서울이 되게 다양한 장르들이 되게 함께 있는 뷔페나 샐러드볼 같은 곳이라고 했는데 그 원동력 중 하나가 그 친구들이 있어서라고 생각을 해요. 여기에 있는 코리안 DJ들은 사실 한계가 있잖아요. 계속 보통 코리안 씬에 머물러 있어야 되지만 그 친구들은 나고 자랐을 때 뭐 예를 들어서 뭐 내가 베이스로 영향을 받았었던 장르들이 있으니까 그런 것들을 오히려 더 빨리 알게 되는 것 같아요. 그리고 그 친구들 디제잉도 잘해요. 그래서 항상 좀 좋은 어떤 그 영감을, 인스파레이션을 되게 받는 것 같아요. 우리는 UK 음악을 트는 DJ지만 영국을 한 번도 갔다 온 적 없고 We've never been UK. So we only just born and raised in Korean and influenced in Korea. 이제는 경쟁력을 좀 갖추고 있을 거라고 생각을 해요. 오히려 이제는 씬에서 한국에서 많이 활동하던 코리안 DJ들이 이제는 서울 너머의 어떤 세계에서 보일러룸이나 다른 플랫폼에서도 되게 많이 플레이를 하고 있거든요. 뭐 코코도 있겠고, 디디안 씨도 있고, 박혜진이라든지 그런 되게 다양한 아티스트들이 이제 월드와이드하게 활동을 할 수 있기 때문에 개인적으로 이 씬에 대한 어떤 자부심을 갖고 있어요. 생각보다 우리는 재밌는 걸 하고 있고 코리아만이 할 수 있는 어떤 색깔을 갖고 있다고 저는 생각을 하고 있어요. 그러니까 as a Korean DJ 저희도 뭔가 우리는 앰비션 같은 건 없거든요. We don't have any ambition like achieving something like bigger things, but 그냥 우리의 목표는 뭐냐면은 as always 진짜 재밌는 거 하자. 그냥 다른 사람들이 들었을 때 아 이거 프레시하고 새롭고 재밌다 하는 것만 하자라는 생각인데 그게 어떻게 보면은 우리가 한국 씬을 보고 있는 그런 시선이기도 하고 아니면은 동시에 한국인 DJ로서의 어떤 아이덴티티이기도 한 것 같아요.
그거는 일단 우리가 만나게 된 게 음악이라는 그런 공통적인 관심사가 있기 때문에 저도 사실 영어를 잘 못하거든요. 근데 그냥 친구가 될 수 있어요. 친구가 될 수 있고 뭔가 패밀리십이 생겨요. 이런 걸 같이 좋아하는구나. 너가 이걸 좋아하고 내가 이걸 좋아하는구나. 그런 것부터 뭔가 동질감이 만들어지고 해서 좀 언어나 뭐 다른 어떤 것들도 좀 문제가 되지 않고 그냥 자연스럽게 친구가 되고 좀 그런 것들이 형성되면서 이제 그 시간이 오래되다 보니까 이제 좀 가족처럼 이렇게 이제 서로 안부 물어보고 서로 생일도 챙기고 이제 같이 시간도 많이 보내고 그런 것들이 자연스럽게 생기면서 같이 그것들이 또 이제 다른 어떤 활동들 그러니까 파티를 같이 열 수도 있고 뭐 어떤 이벤트를 같이 열 수도 있고 뭐 그런 것들로 자연스럽게 연결되는 것 같아요.
I'm not a furry. I'm not saying I'm furry. No, it's not about furry. It's like fighting with an emotional kid.
The Seoul Community Radio is kind of basic, but you can actually break it down into the 3 words that make up SCR. So, for example, Seoul, we're about focusing on the local scene here, music that is made here, the scene that operates here and has grown in the last 7 years. And then I'd say we move on to the R part, which is radio, which is the broadcasting of that. So 7 years ago, we were at the advent of live streaming, Facebook Live, Instagram was just taking off, YouTube Live, that whole kind of broadcast yourself culture. So technology has always been a bit about it. How can we showcase what's happening in Seoul? And I think in recent years, the main thing which has really grown and kind of is the real core of SCI is the community. And since the beginning, we've been focusing on the community of artists, young talent, helping give them a chance to sort of get acknowledgement on the world stage, because we've featured a lot of artists from abroad who've come into Seoul. We also like to, how can I say, export artists that people might want to hear to the rest of the world. And that's been a music community, but we've also branched into different areas of community in recent times, such as the LGBT community, such as different types of societies and subcultures that exist in Korea, such as the African community, for example. It's about reaching in and seeing, bigging up the cultural side of Korea that doesn't always get a platform. So we're open to lots of different creative ideas, and we also like doing stuff which kind of flips the traditional and the modern. So we like to do events which are which fuse together Korean and modern cultures. So we did a party in a Jimjibang recently, which I don't think anyone's ever done, that sauna party. That's a slice of Korean culture fused with a dance music festival, which, you know, pretty much sums up what SER is about. Just something very Korean in the context of sort of cutting edge dance music culture. Myself, I've been here for 8 years. I'm from London originally, but I have a sort of connection to Asia in the fact that my mum's Thai. I was born in Thailand, but grew up in England, in London, northwest London to be precise. And once I got to Korea, I really found that there was a nice atmosphere here, opportunity-wise, to do things, because everything was so fresh and new. There was a very small dance music scene. There was lots of fun stuff happening around fashion. And yeah, decided to launch Seoul Community Radio here to kind of fit in, really. Just there was no real media here in Korea which was about, you know, focusing on dance music. There was like one blog, a couple of clubs. For a long time there's been a bit of a stigma behind clubs in Korea. They've always been seen as sort of shady places or places where people just go to get drunk. But I feel that SCR is flipping that and making it a friendly place where youngsters and ajumas can come and see an event. Ajumas being elderly aunties here, and the flip side of elderly aunties is the ajushi, so it's an older guy. They've looked at our events and be like, what's this? This looks really joyous and really fun. So it's flipping the DJ culture here and making it something which is more, dare to say, more wholesome, but also just more accessible and part of the fabric of society. So yeah, I feel that that's been definitely a thing we've done in recent times. So since we launched SCR, Seoul Community Radio, there's been a Hong Kong Community Radio, Manila Community Radio, shout out Karachi Community Radio, Shanghai Community Radio, Box Out FM in India, who's that sort of breaking the community radio sort of name. And then there's nice radios in Australia, Skylab, and then further afield there's classic sort of stations like NTS and Boiler Room, who we've collaborated with as well. So I think there's a good kind of camaraderie and community between a lot of the radio stations, especially those that started up back in the kind of I would say the boom of online radio 2.0. I mean, personally, I feel that we've got good recognition internationally. We could have even better recognition domestically, personally, because, you know, amongst the underground and subculture, people know us, but does the everyday man on the street or woman, right, know who we are? I don't think so. So there's more that can be done to deepen and be more useful in that sort of society, in sort of more everyday terms. How can dance music be more a part of that? Because if you think overall, Korea's not that underground in terms of the general mainstream culture, whereas in the UK, grime and everything, and UK rap, and it's household name people now, so there's a difference. So plans for SCR over the coming years are quite interesting, because only really now can we sort of think we have a road ahead that we can play on, because with COVID and that, it was all about survival. It was about how can we actually just keep going. Before there was COVID, it was there were grand designs. How can we make our own festival? How can we do more tours where we take Korean artists around the world? Those are all kind of main goals. in terms of just exposure of SCR and exposure of Korean talent worldwide. Those have always been the main sort of reason why we exist, to further electronic music. There's a lot in Korean society which could do with a little bit of how can I say, bit more awareness of what's going on globally in terms of, you know, the LGBT society, in terms of like sort of attitude towards music culture, art culture, electronic music culture, that being something to preserve, because we don't get grants like they would, like a lot of radios do in, say, Brussels or Amsterdam, whereas here art funding primarily goes on sculptures and fine art and those traditional kind of forms of art, which, yeah, okay, it's not really sort of what people are coming to countries for these days. So there's not that kind of recognition of sort of these underground cultures and what they do. They do so much for I think Korea generally, but there's not that acknowledgement of that. So there's a lot we can do to build awareness of the value of what we do and what the entire scene does, rather than just exist in our bubble. But I think that's a question for electronic music worldwide itself. How can it not just exist in this vacuum? How can it sort of be more of a force for good generally, and people to respect what it actually does in terms of promoting, you know, being together, being community, being in one place, enjoying music as an art form. There's a lot to be said for that. It's a powerful thing. So yeah, plenty to be done to raise awareness of that.